With 19 Scudetto titles, 7 Champions Leagues, 12 domestic cups, 7 other European successes, and 4 international titles, AC Milan are one of the giants in world football. Playing in their famous red and black strip at the Giuseppe Meazza Stadium, Milan are known worldwide. It's time to continue their success in FM24. Welcome to Milan. You join me on day one of my brand new job as AC Milan manager. We're going to be spending 5 seasons in Italy as we look to put as many trophies in that trophy cabinet to go with the ones already on the screen in 5 seasons. As you may have heard from the little intro video, AC Milan already have an impressive catalogue of trophies and they have won everything in the game so far. It's going to be my mission to add to their successes. We're going to start off by looking at the starting 11 that we are going to inherit, and they are playing in a 4-3-3 system. Now, by doing a bit of research on AC Milan before I started the game, this is actually true to real life, and AC Milan will play this system. So that means that in-game, I will be playing this system, and I will try as best as I can to stick with that system for as long as I can. Looking at this starting 11, on paper, they have a good team to start the game. Might be a few weaknesses here and there, but overall, they're a great starting block for us to build upon. If we go through the players then, they've got Mainan in goal, Teo at left back, Tomori, Tior, Calabria, Krunic, Benacer. They've got Loftus-Cheek, Rafa, Giroud and Pulisic. So the first player to highlight is obviously Leo. He's one of those exciting players that will get you off the edge of your seat. He's quite electric in terms of his pace. He will run at defenders. He's good at finishing. He's a dribbler. He's one of those exciting players. And I think even though he's 24 years old, there is a lot of improvement still to come from this player. On the opposite side, we have Captain America himself, Christian Pulisic. A few eyebrows were raised when he left Chelsea to go to AC Milan. I certainly feel that is Milan's gain and Chelsea's loss. Up the top, we have Oliver Giroud, coming into the twilight of his career now at the age of 36. I do still think that he has a big role to play, certainly in terms of goal scoring in the first few seasons. He may be one long term that is going to be replaced quite quickly. As for the rest of it, a solid back four with Tomori, who used to play in England too, Tior and Calabria. And then obviously we've got Loftus-Cheek, who I'm not sold on as a player, I have to admit. Being in that central midfield role, he may get replaced, although his wages are quite high, so he probably won't be. It's going to be one of those whether we can move him on or not. But as a starting team, it's a great building block going forwards. Looking at the club culture, or the board culture and the club vision, so they want to sign players under the age of 23 for the first team, sign players under the age of 18 for the future, grow the club's reputation, break even in the transfer market, sign players to sell for a profit. They want to work within the wage budget. Then going forwards, in real life, the San Siro is a fairly old stadium. It's started to crumble and they are looking at moving away in real life. So in-game is reflecting that as they are looking to build a new stadium. In terms of the 5-year plan going forwards, at the end of the current season, they want to qualify for the Champions League. They want to challenge for the Coppa Italia. They want to be competitive in the Champions League. At the end of the 24-25 season, they want to reach at least the knockout stage of the Champions League. And they want to work towards winning Serie A. By the end of the 25-26 season, they want me to win Serie A. I then will get a contract renewal, and going forwards, they want to continue to win Serie A. In terms of the fans and the supporter culture, they want us to sign high reputation players. Now, in these kinds of saves, I will turn off the first transfer window. There'll be no transfers in the summer transfer window. We will start our business in January. I don't think that Milan are going to have a massive budget to kick us off, so it may be that that is failed in the first season and we look at that as a future objective, but I do think we're going to fail that one quite quickly. In terms of their expectations, they want to win the league. They want to become the most reputable team in Europe. They want to become the most reputable team in Italy. They want to finish above Inter in the league, finish above Juventus in the league too. So, we have looked at the team. We know our starting 11. We know what the board want from us and the fans want from us. The only thing to find out is what will happen in Season 1. Let's jump to the end of the season and kick it all off with what we did in the transfer market. I've now jumped forwards to the end of season 1. As I said, there were no transfers in the summer transfer window. We had to wait until January to get active in the transfer market. The first thing that we did was let a few players go, the first of which was Simon Kajar. As you can see, he's now 35 years old, coming into the twilight of his career. We had an offer coming from Al Sadd and we decided that it was acceptable. We allowed him to move on. The next player to go was Yassin Adli, and he also went to Al Sadd. They offered us around £13 million, which isn't big money, but considering he's 23 years old, he probably could have improved a bit. But I do think that we have other options at the club, and there are players that I want to sign that play in a central midfield role. I don't think he was going to fit into my plans. The last player to leave was Luka Jovic. This is a player that I really do not know how to judge. He has had a bit of an up and down career. Real Madrid, Fiorentina, came to Milan. Wasn't really going to be playing too much in terms of a striker position because of Giroud. So Everton came in with a bid. We decided to allow him to move on. So even though we've recouped a bit of money, the original transfer budget was 500,000. We started to add a little bit of that money that we recouped to the 500,000. And the first player that we reinvested in was Cade Cowell. Now, if you follow me on Twitter, this is exactly what I said I would do. The first player that I would sign on FM24 is Cade Cowell. He's a player that I've followed for a few years now for the San Jose Earthquakes, and I really do think in real life he has a shot at being a big player if he can secure himself a move to Europe in the next couple of years. Watch out for him in the 2026 World Cup. In terms of in-game, 17 pace, 15 acceleration, dribbling of 13, finishing of 11, first touch of 12. He's a player that can rotate in when Pulisic and Leo aren't playing. The next player to come in was Filippo Mane. He is a player who actually came in on loan, but we do have an option to buy in the summer. He's young at 19. He's Italian, so he fits in with the club registration requirements. And I think he's a sound purchase once he comes in. We will pay around £4 million for him. And the final player to come in was Cher N'Dour. He's another one that comes in on loan from Paris Saint-Germain. He's been at Benfica, he's been at PSG, and I think we're going to pick him up for around £7 million on a permanent deal, which I think is an absolute bargain. Still only 19 years old, plenty of room for development. So those were the three players that we allowed to leave, the three players that have arrived. The next thing to ask is, how did they perform and how did we get on in the competitions? So we're starting off with the Coppa Italia, where we entered at the third round stage. Now, we beat Cosenza 2-1 in the third round to qualify for the quarterfinals, where unfortunately we were drawn against Inter Milan and they would defeat us 1-0 to knock us out at the quarterfinal stage. Next up was the Champions League. Now, we were drawn in a group that consisted of PSG, Manchester United, Galatasaray and ourselves. And unfortunately, we were knocked out in the group phase of the Champions League. We did play 6 games. We won 2, we drew 2, we lost 2, only had a 1 goal difference, and we finished on 8 points. That was 3 behind Manchester United, who qualified in second, and we were 5 points off of PSG, who went through as group winners. Now, that obviously means that we were knocked out of the Champions League, but we would move across to the Europa League, where we would join the competition at the knockout playoff round. So we were drawn against LASK Linz. We beat them 6-2 on aggregate to progress into the round of 16, where we were drawn against Liverpool, where we actually beat them 8-5 on aggregate and had a 3-3 draw in the second leg. In the quarterfinals, we were drawn against Freiburg. We beat them 11-4 on aggregate and beat them 6-4 in the second leg in the quarterfinals. Then in the semi-finals, we were drawn against Celtic, where we went through 3-2 on aggregate, winning the second leg 2-1. And that meant we got through to the final, where we would play against Real Sociedad, and we would go on to win the Europa League. So a European trophy in the first season is absolutely fantastic. Then in the main competition, in Serie A, we would go on and win Serie A 2. We would amass 94 points from our 38 games, and it breaks down like this: 30 games played, 4 games drawn, 4 lost, a goal difference of 62, and 94 points. That means that we were well ahead of Napoli, Juventus and Inter Milan, and we won the league convincingly. Looking at some stats, we have Oliver Giroud, who got 32 goals in the league. He beat Ciro Immobile to the top goal scorer award. He had a 7.46 average rating, and Teo Hernandez got a 7.32. Pulisic got 12 assists. Player of the Match awards, Giroud with 8. And yellow cards, Teo Hernandez got 12. One other side note to Oliver Giroud, he was actually voted the best striker in Europe for the 23-24 season, which was absolutely amazing. He was an absolute goal machine in our tactic. So, a fantastic first season that includes winning Serie A. We won the Europa League. Shame about the Champions League and the Coppa Italia, but it's a great start in terms of the competitions. Looking at the finances going into Season 2, and it doesn't look great, does it? We have a transfer budget of £13.5 million, a wage budget of £1.9 million. We are spending £1.6 million currently on wages. The club have an overall balance of £14.4 million. So the big question here is, what do we do with that transfer budget? We're probably going to have to sell players if we want to have a full rebuild of the squad. It looks probably a little bit bare in terms of numbers. We might need a bit of squad depth, so it's a question of, do we raise funds and then do we invest it in one player, or do we try and spread that around? Also, is that £13 million wise to spend when the board only actually have £14 million in the bank? In terms of the club vision, board vision, actionable objectives: grow the club's reputation, they're reserving judgment; break even in the transfer market, we're on course; sign players to sell for a profit, reserving judgment; work within the wage budget, on course; build that new stadium, is in progress now. In terms of the 5-year plan, current season, be competitive in the Champions League, passed; reach the latter stage of the Europa League, passed; qualify for the Champions League, passed; challenge for the Coppa Italia, failed. The board say our job security is secure, and they give us a C+ in terms of our feedback. Our board cultures: sign players under the age of 23 for the first team, very disappointed; sign players under the age of 18 for the future, disappointed. So those are difficult anyway, because the players that we lost had to replace with experienced players. So not too fussed about that, but it would have been better if we would have scored a bit higher. In terms of the supporters, so the supporter culture of signing high reputation players, I did state straight away we would probably fail on this one, because we have no chance of signing high reputation players with 500k in the bank. Supporter expectations: become the most reputable team in Europe, reserving judgment; most reputable team in Italy, reserving judgment; finish above Inter, finish above Juventus, pleased with both; and win Serie A, we have passed. So all in all, it's good feedback from the board and the supporters being more kind than the board in terms of our grading on the season. To round us off for Season 1, I'm going to have a look at the squad. I'm going to do this in 2 different ways. So firstly, I've loaded in what I think my best 11 across this current season is, and I've put that into the tactic to show you that we are running the 4-3-3 as I promised at the start of the episode. And then I will go into the squad planner, have a look at the assistants 11, and have a little look at the advice that he's given for Season 2. So to start us off then, let's have a look at my 11. So I've gone with Milan in goal, Hernandez at left back, Tomori, Thiaw, Calabria as a back 4, Pobega, Loftus-Cheek and Sharon Dorr. Now I think Sharon Dorr is suited to this position. It might not be a popular choice, but I do think that once he signs on a permanent deal, he will slot into there and he will make one of those positions his own, because he's a brilliant footballer. On the left we've got Leao, Chukwueze on the right, and then Giroud up top. Chukwueze against Pulisic was a difficult call. Both of them have contributed brilliantly across the season. If we look at Rafa Leao and some of the stats for his season, so he played in 37 games, scored 13 goals, had 9 assists, 5 Player of the Match awards, and a 7.17 average rating. In terms of Chukwueze, as I said, a rotation piece really. In terms of his stats, 29 games played, 4 goals, 5 assists, 1 Player of the Match award, and a 6.96 average rating. And at the top of the pitch, Mr. Oliver Giroud. If we look at his stats, you can see why he was voted the best striker in Europe. 35 games, 32 goals, 6 assists, 8 Player of the Match awards, and a 7.46 average rating, all at the age of 37 years old. Is the man ever going to slow down? I don't know, but he's probably one that we're going to have to look at long-term replacements for going into Season 2. I do think that it's probably best to try and get some kind of reinforcements now, so when he does leave eventually, it's not such a big hole to fill. Other than that, maybe a midfield player needs to come in, and then across the back 4, maybe we need a bit of depth at the wing-back positions. Let's go and look then at what our assistant manager thinks. In terms of his best 11, he's picking Milan in goal, Teo Hernandez, Kalulu, Tior and Calabria. So Kalulu in instead of Tomori. Benica, he's got Reinders, Loftus-Cheek, and then Leao, Giroud and Chukwueze. So mostly the same as my best 11. He has gone with one or two slightly different. If we then go into the assistant report and have a look at some of the stats. So in terms of weaknesses, it's corners, overall depth, finishing. Even though Giroud has got all of those goals, he thinks that the finishing is bad. So that probably also tells us we need to go and sign a striker for season 2. Flair, free kick taking, goalkeeper depth, transfer budget, 13.5 million. It doesn't leave us much room for manoeuvre on that front. So even he knows that we need more money. Looking at the strengths though, we have good marking, command of area for the goalkeepers, communication, long throws, leadership, top goal scorer with Giroud. And we also have a number of youth prospects, including Bartasaghi, Zeroli, Traore, Darius Stelmach, Sia, and Filippo Scotti. So there are things that we can build upon. There are youth that can come through, and I think we can move one or two players on to get us another few players to come in at the end of season 2, or the end of season 1, beginning of season 2, and then try and build this squad as we go through the save. But all in all, a fantastic season 1. We have won Serie A, we have won the Europa League. It is a successful season going forwards. To say we have won 2 trophies in the first season is absolutely fantastic, and it's certainly a building block for us to go on with. Right then, if you're with me at this point of the video, firstly, a big thank you. Secondly, if you don't mind hitting the subscribe button, you don't want to miss out on any of the videos in this series. If you want to stay with this to the end and you've enjoyed it, make sure you got the notification bell on too so you can see when the videos drop. Before you go, don't forget to check out the rest of the channel. There are hints, tips, tutorials for FM23 and FM24. There are Wonder Kid videos. There are save ideas if you haven't already chosen a team to play as on FM24. There are videos pretty much for everybody on the channel. For this one though, I'm going to wrap it up there. A big thank you for watching. I hope to see you on the next episode of the Milan Save.